I'm willing to use my voice. I'm willing to speak up on these things. And that's not just me saying, hey, women have a period, treat us differently. It's flipping it completely and saying, we are just the same as you. We can do exactly the same. Allow us to. Treat us like we can. Let us in, because your business will absolutely thrive because of that.
Welcome to Speaker Driven Business Podcast, and this is where we're shaking it up a little. This is the first of our conversations with our clients, and these are not conversations to say, here's my case study, do my thing. These are conversations because, quite frankly, the people that we have in our world as clients are super freaking cool. And so we've decided to start to alternate it. So we will have an episode with a guest. We'll have an episode with a client. We'll have an episode just with me solo, sharing some insights and strategies for you. But I also realize that there are some phenomenally cool people in my world where speaking is really changing things. Now, this particular first conversation in this series is with a lady by the name of Kim Allen. I've been working with Kim and her husband in their business for a number of years now. We've seen them go through multi-seven-figure growth. And a part of that journey has been Kim finding her confidence and finding her voice and speaking, and the shifts that's created for her and their journey within that. So these episodes are not necessarily about, do this thing and do it here and find the success and go and replicate it. These conversations are just with the super cool humans in my world. They're with what is going on in their world. What is it that they do and that they show up for, and how speaking and their voice has impacted that. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of an insight into our world. And trust me, I could actually do an episode a week, every week for about the next 3 years in order to get through the simply cool, beautiful humans that I have the privilege to work with in the work that I do. So over these coming months, as you get to know these clients on every third episode, I hope that you enjoy getting to know who they are as much as I have in my world. Settle in, a cup of tea. I'm sure there's going to be inspiration for all of you. So welcome back to the Speaker Driven Business Podcast. And as mentioned, this is the first of the conversations I'm having with our clients. And that's because the people in our world are super cool. They're from all walks of life. They're from all over the world. And I can't wait for today's conversation with the gorgeous Mrs. Kim Allen. Kim, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Well, we'll see about that by the time we finish. How does that sound? Kim, I always ask as we open this, where in the world are you right now? Because we do go into over 20 countries now. So where in the world are you right now?
Yeah, sure. I'm in Brisbane, Australia. It's blowing an absolute gale today, and I am sitting in my warehouse office surrounded by concrete.
That's the best thing when it's blowing a gale is actually drop the temperature, I reckon, by about 10 degrees.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. We're in spring and it's the best time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kim, obviously I know you, but most people listening to this won't know who Mrs. Kim Allen is. So quick 3, 4, 5 minute intro. Who are you?
Yeah, sure. I am the CEO of CRA Construction. It is a plastering and carpentry business I own with my darling husband. So we have been going for 7 years now, and very much so built from the ground up. Today, this year I launched my personal branding, and that was very much so getting the CEO out and about and everyone getting to know me. I am insanely passionate about changing the construction industry. So my mission is to get the construction industry out of the 1980s and into the modern era, and stop with the being so testosterone dominated, and then being willing to accept women for every single attribute that we bring. And that's not just, we bring balance, we bring structure, we bring so many traits, but it's also reducing the testosterone levels on site and bringing the different perspectives in. And yeah, so today I am CEO, but I also go out into schools and I introduce plastering. I am out speaking to the industry about myself as a female in this industry in a high level position. I just want everyone to look at things from a different perspective and to understand where I'm coming from, and that they too can very easily, with a quick switch, look the same direction.
Yeah, amazing. If we can just do a quick snippet of what CRA construction looks like now. So give us an idea, the amount of people in your teams, the kind of work that you do. So give us a quick little micro snapshot of CRA construction as it is today.
Yeah, sure. We have 22 full-time employees. We have about 20 subcontractors, and of that is a mixture of in-house office team. I have an amazing general manager now, finance manager, estimating manager, and they have everyone underneath them. Along with our team on site, I have plasterers, apprentices, carpenters, framers, you name it. So yeah, they are an amazing group of people that I would not have a business if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that brings to mind, I introduce you as Mrs. Kim Allen. That's a big part of your story, being a woman in construction. And that takes us to actually how we met. Right. And so, which is a number of years ago now. I can't believe it's been so many years now. But we first met because actually, whilst you say I go out and speak, that was not your natural way of being when we first met, was it?
No, I would hide under the covers. I was I was what I like to call a accidental office manager, where I had started this business with my husband and then very excited and passionate about it, and then very quickly was being put back in my place or back in my box and made to feel inferior because I didn't know the industry, I didn't know the trade, but I bloody knew small business because I've worked in it for many years, and felt my confidence was shattered. Yeah, one day I came across this amazing course that happened to be Jacqueline running. And here we are today. I've gone from a mum with 2 young children. I remember sitting through that course and having my baby sitting on my lap with me a lot of the time. To today, I am very much so a full-time working mum. I am the driving house of our business, and yeah, learning to juggle all the beautiful balances of life.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been quite a journey. I do want to just go back there because that was actually a program that ran as we were coming out of COVID called Confident Women in Construction. And if I remember when you first walked into that, you literally just wanted to be heard and wanted people to know that you had your own name. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So at that point in time, my kids were getting old enough where they would sit up by themselves. They were going to daycare. So I had more time on my hands. So I said, right, now's my opportunity. I can step into the business a bit more. I had an employee come up to us wanting a pay rise. And I said, mate, you're just out of your apprenticeship. You're not there yet. You need to learn to crawl before you can walk. Those same words got said to me when I was his age in the same similar position. Yet what he did was hang up the phone to me, call my husband, and got that pay rise. Yeah, it was that to me was, how do I get through to them? I had no respect from them. I was seen as the missus because my husband had a previous business where I was the missus. I was not welcome in that business partnership because it was the other business partner was very much so, the women raise babies and that's what your job is. And I had to be respectful of that. But this was our business. It was something completely different. So I had to learn to flip that. And the moment that I thought I had found my confidence, yeah, I'm in there, I'm ready to go, it got shattered. So the course came at the most perfect time. I remember one of the modules, I closed off the course for the day and I went up to my husband and said, hi, my name's Kim. And he said, what are you on about? And I'm like, well, you call me the missus. You call me the missus to every of our team members, every builder, every client, everyone. I'm the missus. And when we first got married, I was proud to be called that. But the reality is now it's disrespectful. My name is Kim. Please start using it, because if you don't start showing me respect, why would any of our team have respect for me? And that was the pillar. All of a sudden, my husband started sitting in on the course modules with me and listening in. And that was the beginning of our journey. Yeah.
I love that so much. And obviously I was witness to that as it was happening. And then we started doing some work together, but I also want to speak into just because it didn't just magically happen, right? So there was that moment where it started to shift. But walk us through the last few years, like the different points of actually finding your voice, the different points of actually deciding that you're going to speak, that you're going to advocate, because even when you decide you're going to speak, it was more about your journey. And now you've really got this roaring voice of an advocate. So I just kind of would love to know a little bit about what stands out for you along that way.
Yeah, sure. So we've been working with you for a few years now, and we've gone from literally an at-home office to now our own office, warehouse, and we keep doubling in size year on year out. It's all fabulous stories. Me personally was when I started working more one-on-one with you, and that was going and seeing a few select speakers you had put together one day, and that was life-changing for me. That was where I'll let you take over from there. But that day for me was very much so, I sat there listening to someone speak and going, wow, I resonate with this. I started writing down every element of her speech. Was like, yes, I've been there. I've done that. Yes, I know this. Why have I always allowed that story to be my husband's and not allowed it to be from my own perspective? And then it just dropped for me, the reality that, meeting my husband, prior to meeting my husband, I was always, wanting to meet someone. I was always wanting a partner. And then I met my partner and I moved from Perth to Brisbane to be with him. And then all of a sudden it became our life was revolved around his milestones. It was him becoming self-employed. So my very secure full-time job supported us while we went on that journey. It was him creating his own business and me supporting that. And then it was moving on to our own business today, which coincidentally was his initials are CRA. So, I was hiding behind him constantly, not even realizing it, but I genuinely thought that's what I had to do as a female. And that's what I had to do to honor my husband and to be there for my husband, because that was how I was raised. Very traditional childhood, and I didn't know any better. And then all of a sudden, that day with you, I met these fierce women who, I wouldn't even say fierce, they just bloody knew who they were. And I've gone, wow, that's inspiring. And why can't I do that?
Yeah. Was that the Resonance and Resolve event last year? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, as well as seeing who's from Perth?
Jermaine.
No. This was the year prior, the Green Room.
Oh, Rabia Sadiq.
Yes.
That's right. We did actually get some people in a program, very personal time with Rabia for hours.
It was phenomenal. It was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
So that was me flipping my holy cow. If she can go out there and speak about what she speaks about, which is raw and real and deep, I've gone, so can I.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I didn't realize that was the moment that changed it. I know that after that was when we started doing the deeper work. So just to clarify for people, I do work with yourself and Chris as a business mentor and coach. And then you were finding your voice all the way through that. And part of actually the mentoring work was working with both you and your husband on how to communicate with the teams and with the people and with suppliers and all that sort of stuff. And I've loved watching that evolution. Watching you step into this though, because actually as you first stepped into it, and we've done some work, you've come to some workshops, but as you first stepped into it, it's very much about your story. But now it's your story almost as an advocate for what you want to see happen. What created that shift? Where do we go from wanting to just be able to speak into your story to being like, you literally are this powerful advocate's voice that's rising through construction? What created that shift?
Yeah, that was, so going through the initial course with you was finding my confidence and speaking to, I felt like I needed to speak on confidence and push that element. And that is my story, absolutely. But it was me realizing that I had so much more to give, and I was actually putting myself in a box, and I would have further reach if I actually I'm not a girl's girl. I don't resonate when you talk about girly things. I don't, that's not me. The construction industry, I genuinely feel at home at, but I also feel on the outsides of. So that was me thinking, well, how can I merge the two together? And when I started speaking about things, I've realized, I can push the elements. As soon as I took myself away from CRA and had my own personal brand, I've gone, I can speak on the things I want to speak about instead of what I feel is good for my business branding and that branding. And we are allowed to be two separate brands. And that allowed me to go, well, sod it, let's go.
How important has it been to understand or give yourself permission to have two separate brands?
Yes, it's been polarized. It's huge, huge. I would never speak about the things that I'm speaking about if I was purely bound by being under the CRA brand. Having my own personal brand, that is allowing me to speak up as a female and speak up from my point of view, which I've never felt I've been allowed to have because it's just not done in the industry. It's just not accepted. The amount of times I've been told that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Well, no. You
Yeah.
know, why does it have to be that way? That's not okay. Not in today's world. Women have come so far, but yet we still aren't. I would say we're respected, but men just don't know what to do with us is a reality.
Yeah. That's the truest statement I've ever heard in my life. When it comes to speaking up, because I know you're fierce on podcasts and things like that, and you're starting to move into the actual speaking world and speaking at events, what is it that what drives you? What do you want people to walk away from every time they hear you? What are you wanting them to walk away with? Because it's a really important space.
Yeah, absolutely. I want them to walk away knowing that they can too improve, that just because it's just how it's been done, it doesn't always have to be. The status quo can be shifted. The normality of what we've accepted the industry to be can be shifted. Why do we have to accept it is what it is? Why can we look at it from a different perspective? And I want them to feel as passionate as I am about this, because why not? Because at the end of the day, the government's making all this noise about we need more workers in our industry. We've got, between now and the Olympics, we have so much infrastructure happening, so many people moving and migrating to Queensland, but we don't have the workers. Well, guess what? We have two genders, and there's a 50% there that aren't actually being considered for the industry, and there's 50% there that can bloody do the work. The amount of times that I can go to site and show the team that I can carry and lift what they can do, that I can run and keep up with them at the same pace, they're blown away. But the reality is every other female can do that. They just are not allowing them to.
Yeah, and I'm part of my career, or no, all of my career before doing this phase of my life was all working in male-dominated industries, and that's why I think I've been such a huge fan and advocate for what you're doing. You've also, and raising your voice and finding your voice has also led to a lot of recognition for CRA. You actually just pulled off some incredible awards with the HIA, the Housing Industry Association of Queensland. Do you want to just tell us about those awards? Which one means the most to you and why?
Yeah, I think that's innovation and change. That's being willing to be honored for the fact of what I'm doing is needed and wanted and desired. For someone to actually go, yes, that is unreal. And to the sponsors, every time I'd walk up to grab every single award that day, the sponsor that was shaking my hand went, "You're inspirational." Purely because I'm willing to use my voice. I'm willing to speak up on these things. And that's not just me saying, hey, women have a period, treat us differently. It's flipping it completely and saying, we are just the same as you. We can do exactly the same. Allow us to. Treat us like we can. Let us in. Yeah, because your business will absolutely thrive because of that.
Yeah, I love that so much. The other thing that just came up for me then as well is obviously working with you guys really closely, you and your husband. I know that there's a lot of awards. So you've won these ones as a woman in construction, but you guys have won a lot of awards over time. What has that meant first for your business, and then secondly for you personally, and building this confidence and understanding why this is so necessary? What part has that played in it?
Yeah, well, when I found my confidence, was very much so the point of me flipping our business. So all of the scenarios of it's just how it's done, I started questioning and pushing back on, well, let's do different. So that was very much so. We had all of our team was casual or subcontractors. And that was me saying, well, I came from a salary-based role that I felt secure in, and that's what supported us in Chris going out in his business. Why can't our team have the same? And then taking that the next notch, why can't we then invest in their training? And as people, why can't we help them grow with our business mentally, physically, and educational? Why can't we wholeheartedly flip the culture of our business? Why does it need to be just get to work and do the job and piss off home? Why can't we make it family orientated? Why can't we support one another? Why can't we have respect and have each other's back and, really build up our leadership skills? And the awards have come from me wanting to change how it's done and seek that recognition to be able to say, yes, we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing. Yes, it's challenging everything in the industry, but I want us to be the leader for everyone to follow suit. I've become the chairperson for our industry association and the first female PS.
I didn't actually realize that bit.
Yeah, because I've implemented change in our industry and become a leader for our industry with our business. But why can't we do it at a state level? Why can't I change policy? Why can't I help other businesses to be able to grow in that element? It's not just females, it's every business in our plastering industry. I've always been trying to change the industry to be more professional and respected. And if I can do that at a nation level, then that is golden. I am there. Because we deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're so do you feel lonely with this pathway at all? Because it is very different for construction. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's more so the more I get out and network, the more I realize I have people rallying behind me. The more people I speak to, they are beginning to know who I am. They are beginning to relate to me, resonate with me. They understand where I'm coming from. I don't feel alone. I have moments in time, sure, where I need to hide and just regroup, but it's something that I know I'm doing the right thing because so many people are coming up to me going, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you came into my world because you needed confidence, right? And you found your voice, and it literally, I still remember the week after you actually went to your husband and said, I have a name, it's Kim. And I think it's one of those moments I won't forget. So you found your voice in small steps at the start. But now if I look at how you use your voice, it is for speaking. You are podcast guesting. You are presenting awards. You're receiving awards. You're going into schools. Tell me what that was about. Because you're going to schools and running workshops and seminars and sessions for little tiny kids.
It's so cool. It's the absolute joy. It brings me so much joy. This is my passion project, and I do it because I have been struggling to find good apprentices for a long time, and I've gone, sod it. I'm struggling because they don't know about the industry. Everyone that we have hired as a plasterer, they are in this profession because they fell into the job role. They didn't choose it. So me going to schools, all the kids, they know what a builder, electrician, plumber is. They're all the respected trades that people actually want to be in, but they've never even seen or heard of plastering. So I rock up and I have my little sample boards and I have my little plastic tools because I wouldn't dare give them a metal sharp thing. And I go all the way from kindergarten, which literally they just slap it on and they are giggling and they're like, look at me. And it's fabulous. All the way up to year 9, 10 students. That's the point of their life where they are making these decisions, trying to find what they're passionate about and what they enjoy. They're choosing their subjects, and then all the way through to TAFE. So I'll go into any TAFE and, they might be doing a Cert 1 in construction. They might be trying a few elements, but they haven't secured an apprenticeship. And that's where I'll go and introduce them to the trade. And it's just speaking with them all to say, we aren't just there's not just one element of our trade, there's multi-levels. And then I go on to speak that I dual trade my team. So you're not just becoming a plasterer, you're becoming a carpenter. The growth, just because you become one trade doesn't mean that you're that forever. You have so many growth elements. And it's just seeing their eyes light up and realize that this is a potential for them. It's an option. That's golden. And so many reach out to me going, can I come for work experience? Can I come? Can you hire me? Absolutely. Let's have a chat. And that is how I'm going to grow my workforce.
I love that. Yeah, by stealth. You're going to go and get them right when before they even are really thinking about it, you're going to get the kinder kids slapping. That sounds wrong, but the kinder kids slapping their plaster on. Would any of this been possible without actually learning how to speak?
No, because the speaking journey made me, A, deal with my grief, B, made me deal with what my direction is. So I have rewritten my keynote so many times.
There's a few FSDs, first shitty drafts. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, 100%. My key ideas have changed. At the end of the day, it's making me acknowledge what my journey is, where I've come from, where I am today, and the key elements of what I've learnt along the way to speak about. And that in turn, if I can learn from that, then I can teach anyone else that.
Yeah, 100%. So tell me how, because it might not seem connected, tell me how learning how to speak and how to write a keynote meant that you had to deal with grief.
Yeah. So when I started my keynote, when I listened to Rabia, she has a very deep story about her childhood, about where she came from. Listening to yourself, Jack, speak has always resonated with me. And I didn't have a cushion, a beautiful childhood. I struggled. I had many elements. And I lost my father 5 years ago. And that was in the midst of COVID. COVID just hit. He was in Perth. I was in Brisbane. I had to deal with all the borders. I had to deal with getting government approval just to fly over to see my father, to attend the funeral. I had all these restrictions put in place. I had a newborn baby and a toddler and a new business. And I realized that I compartmentalized that, and I boxed all that away. I never actually had the opportunity to grieve my father. When I started writing my keynote, I went, oh, my dad's actually quite a pillar of this. Let me start delving more into that. And to be honest, this past year, I've had to acknowledge that I have generational trauma that I then personally have had to deal with to be able to start speaking about these elements and to be able to really get into the nitty-gritty of who I am as a person, what my business is, what my relationship with my husband is and what I want it to be, and what my relationship with men, because I was brought up to shut up and just do as you're told. My father was very strict, very raw in this is how it is and you are the child. It was, there was no conversations. There was no, options. We were very lower class. Middle class at one point, but we had a turmoil myself growing up. And I've had to go through and work on many different elements of that. And that's through, I have wellness coaches now. I go off and do all these crazy adventures to go and push myself and push my resilience and my limits to deal with my trauma. I climb mountains in my swimmers in the snow. I do mushrooms to release trauma. You name it, I will try it if that's going to help me deal with my grief further and help acknowledge who I am as a person and who I want to be. I'm about to turn 40 this year, and that's been a huge moment of my life of going, wow, I'm finally only just understanding who I am. And that's because I've started off writing my speech and acknowledging my keynote and my stories and what I can and can't speak about and dealing with my grief.
I love that so much and not because I want to send people into grief and trauma, but it's actually one of the things that is really hard for people to understand. A lot of people don't end up speaking and taking to the stage and raising their voice, because to do so, you have to stare down your demons. And it's one of the things that actually why we no longer, like most of our work is longer term now, because to actually find your voice, and particularly for women, you are going to have to stare down the demons. And it's not because we actually want to throw you into that place, but actually to find the strength in voice. And I think about from the outside looking in, and yes, I'm your coach, I'm with our friends, but I think about the strength of your voice now and where you started. And I couldn't have seen this coming, the way that you've embraced this, the way that you've built your voice. But I also know it's because you're willing to do the work when those stories first started rising, right? And some of it was actually, you were writing the story, but like we couldn't feel it. And that's because you weren't feeling it, right?
Mm. I thought I was writing what I thought people wanted to hear. And that was the difference. And that's why I've written so many keynotes, is because I had to realize that it's not just about what I think they want. I need to figure out who I am and to speak on who I am and what my journey is and how I've got there, not just assuming, I need to be funny, assuming I need to, do this deep, raw story and people will resonate. I remember you saying you can't take people down and leave them there. You have to be able to wind your story back to pull them out of that rut that you just brought them into. And I've realized I don't want to do that. I can't do that because I've been there. It would have been a year and a half ago. I happily admit I was a broken woman. And that was in the midst of writing my keynote. I did a course in March, and in June I was deep in a horrible place, and have had to honor that, acknowledge that, and go, how on earth am I going to get out of that? And that's working on myself and just trial and error,
Yeah. There's a lot of trial and error in everything that we do, isn't there? What in this whole process, because you have really shifted so far, you mentioned that, my key ideas that had to change. What do you think has changed?
In what I speak about.
Yeah, you said it really created, I had to deal with my key ideas changing.
Yeah, so I was initially speaking about just my journey and my journey alone, and thinking that would get people to where I am, and I would end with a big, you've got this, But the reality is people don't just want that. If I can speak about that, but it's purely just to women who are maybe in a similar position to me. That's not who my key audience is. My key audience is the bigger picture. It's not just women, it's men. And men are predominant force of the construction industry. That's who I need to get through to. Women will listen to my story, resonate, understand it, and that'll help build their confidence no matter what. But the difference is men will actually understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. And that's what I'm after. I want them to actually, because they are the force behind this change, is the reality. Women only make up 15% of the entire industry at the moment. If I want change, I need to go direct to men and for them to understand why this needs to happen. And women will just sit there applauding at the back, going, yes, hallelujah.
Yeah. Which we need. We need them doing that. But you actually, the voice to change will be via the men.
Yes.
So one of the things, if you think about yourself, I put some words into your mouth, but for yourself, what has this change been for you by finding your voice, finding your confidence, then finding your voice? What has this change meant to you on a personal level?
Yeah, I've gone from a insanely stressed woman who could not cope. I remember sitting in on meetings with you, and I was up to I used to have 2 large coffees a day and 3 shots in each. So, and that was by maybe our 10 a.m. session, right? And I was jittery, and my heart was belting out of my chest, and I was just, yeah, Jack, just tell me what I've got to do. I'll do it straight away. So it's off my plate and on I go. I couldn't focus. I just needed shit off my shoulders. I just needed it done. Today, I don't drink coffee because I've acknowledged it created me more stress and anxiety, and I didn't like that feeling. I can just be as energetic without it. And survive in life. Yeah. But I've had to find myself to know that I am now, I would like to say calm.
Relatively.
But I have clarity is my biggest thing, and I can look to the future. I can make clear decisions. I can delay that decision to know that it doesn't have to be done immediately, that we can continue to work on that. I've been able to hire more key people in our business to relieve pressure from me to be able to have that clear thought. And that's a financial risk. There's no direct answer to say, hey, this isn't gonna work. It's let's bloody hope it will. But at least I'm not sinking myself personally in the interim, because I'll have enough mental clarity to be able to pull myself out of any hole that may be dug. Because I have foresight, I can understand why things are happening. I can understand my numbers. I can understand the bigger picture better instead of just, putting out fires all day, every day.
Yeah. I remember years ago I did some sales training for a billion-dollar corporate, and we taught them how to speak well, how to, sell through story and to share stories and all that sort of stuff. I remember going back about 6 months later, and it was 6 months later for the second roadshow around all of the states. And one of the things that was really interesting was they had all hit goals. Some of them quadrupled their results and conversions. Like, it was amazing outcomes. But the thing that I'm always going to remember is like walking into offices. Like, I remember walking to Sydney, and one guy who was in his, late 40s pulled me aside and he said, I know that you helped us with sales. I know you helped us with storytelling. He said, but can I tell you, the way that you taught me about communication, I'm talking to my wife again. Another guy told me he now suddenly knew how to communicate with his eldest son. There was all these stories in all the hallways in every state about the things that had changed through learning how to communicate for sales, which they never saw coming. So for you, and I've watched this and I'm witness to it, so it's a little bit of a leading question, but for you, what have you noticed change in your communication as a leader, as a mom, as all of those things? Like, where are the things changed all around? Because, and this is one of the things I really am quite passionate about, and why I do this work is because once you learn to speak, everything changes. Right. So what have you noticed change from a communication and relationship and leadership perspective because you've learned how to speak well?
Yeah, 100%. So when I'm speaking at the front of meetings with our team, I have direction, I have clarity, I can speak fluently. I know why I'm doing it, not just, hey guys, this is the problem, this is why we need to do it. I now have purpose. I now acknowledge that it's a conversation, not just me barking orders. At home, I think at home is my biggest difference, that myself as a mum, my kids, my home is much more calmer, because Chris and my husband and I, we're not fighting. We're not bickering constantly. I've learned to have strict boundaries because that's what I need to be able to thrive. I come home, we don't speak about work. I'm home a minimum of 4 days during the week at night to put my kids to bed. They know my routine. They know the mornings that I'm not there because I'm off at work early in the morning. I understand that I need to speak to them through situations and scenarios. My daughter's anxiety has calmed significantly. My son, he too has calmed significantly. And in turn, my husband's absorbing that as well, and appreciating it and loving it, because the toxicity has been removed, and that's at home and the workplace. Yeah,
That's incredible.
It's a beautiful feeling.
So I'm going to ask you, and this can be speaking related or business related or whatever it might be, because this is just about the cool people in my world, really. Who inspires you, Kim? Who's got your attention? Who do you, like you mentioned Rabia, like obviously got your attention with speaking, but who inspires you?
Yeah, sure. I think, like, looking big picture, I've always resonated with Oprah. She is a powerhouse female. She doesn't give a shit. She speaks the way she thinks, and people respect and listen to her. And she's well known for trying to change the world to make it a better place. That, if I can do two small elements of that, I'd be happy. It's definitely something that but everyone inspires me, to be honest. I will come in and sit in on anyone speaking on stage, and I'm blown away and inspired and in awe. And, I feel everyone has a place in life to do well, to want to achieve, to be their best potential, be their best selves. So everyone inspires me. Like they generally do, because if they're willing to open up to me, I'll get it out of you.
So I like that. So also too, you just mentioned there, like when you go into rooms and hear speakers, and I know that you've been deliberately putting yourself in rooms to hear speakers, and you've been in a lot of our rooms as well as a lot of industry rooms. Which speaker, and this is without notice, so we might need to, but which speaker has really inspired you the most or surprised you the most?
Yeah, sure. Jermaine was a good one. Yeah, I loved her speech. I loved her talk. The fact it was her first time on stage when I saw her, I didn't know it. I didn't know. That was awesome to know that when I go on stage, I get the butterflies and holy shit, am I holding the microphone right? And it was done with poise and with confidence that you wouldn't have thought of or even had to acknowledge, because it was natural. And I think that was incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, incredible. What are you excited about next? And first of all, I'm going to ask you from your business and your industry perspective, and then from a speaking perspective. So what are you excited for next from your business and industry? We'll go there first.
Yeah, sure. My next is rolling out female events for my industry association. And being able to speak and lead them. Yes, I'll speak to you about that next.
Yeah.
And then that's awesome. The changes I'm making with our industry association are huge. So that is resonating with me. The next is meeting with the press to be able to further my reach and further who I'm getting through to. That is very exciting for me. For the business, CRA is like going in leaps and bounds, and I'm so proud of where we've come from and where we are today. And honestly, we're just scratching the surface. So I'm super excited where we're moving into, because we're doing it finally with clarity and finesse instead of just, we'll figure it out.
So for those who are listening, as we wrap up, and we talk all the time, but as we wrap this up, for those that are listening who think they can work on their confidence and their speaking later, like one day, what would you say to them?
Just because you're working on speaking doesn't mean you have to actually go speak. So it is a future thing, sure, like set yourself goals. But the first, you might have a huge goal, let it be a long-term goal. But to achieve that goal, you got to start somewhere. And that somewhere is starting with learning your craft, learning what you want to speak about, learning who you are and what do you want to implement and bring to the world to speak about. And the next element is building that confidence and building that element of, your following and who you are. And, it's not an overnight journey. And I am proof in the pudding of that. I thought, oh, yeah, boom, off we go. But the reality is I have enjoyed my journey and I have appreciated going on that journey, and that it's not an overnight thing, because it means that when I do fully hit stages, I'll be ready and I will not be in a stress zone.
I love that. And also too, it's because it is a journey, it's incremental, but you just said something really powerful then. You said, when I do hit the stages, and it's interesting because you're actually already hitting small stages, platforms, you are actually already using it everywhere. And so as we close out, I'd just love to leave the audience with that, is that there is getting ready for a big stage, but there is every stage along the way matters just as much, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because it's building my confidence in speaking to people.
Yeah, and getting known. Same to people, if you're not visible, you're not viable, right?
But even you have to stand on a stage. On a stage, your mannerisms, how you use your hands, where you walk, do you walk, there's so many different elements. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Any stage is a good stage when we're starting out. Kim Allen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.